inspired countless baby names, bad memes, and office tchotchkes. Everyone watched it, everyone talked about it, and nothing since has even hinted at coming close to its complete domination. There are also a few shows as widely hated in their final stretches. Daniel Weiss and David Benioff, the series runners, sometimes derisively referred to as D&D, ran out of original material from series author George R.R. Martin late into the game and started working with their own ideas in conjunction with unexplored series storylines. That's when less liked characters took center stage, storylines got needlessly muddled, and fan favorites started behaving strangely. Weiss and Benioff still made HBO and everyone else a ton of money, and the world was their oyster. Their follow-up was supposed to be a speculative fiction series about if slavery still existed in America. It was quickly met with broad Twitter backlash and shuttered before production began. However, the original ride of D&D, Game of Thrones, is incomparable to anything in recent history, as is its decline in quality, and I have a lot of theories about the world's reaction to the ending of the series that I'd like to get into with Matt, so let's get going. So, Game of Thrones, the show, what reviewings did you do?
I did a little sprinkle. I think I did. You know what I honestly did? I watched the big battle episodes.
Yeah,
because those are the self-consciously most cinematic episodes.
Yeah,
and they're sort of like the thing that everything else is really built around, because the show it's got this veneer of prestige, but it really is about delivering just the glandular pleasures, and all of those, like the center of that every season is the big fight.
Yeah, and
everything else is just sort of about teasing you to that orgasm. So I just went full nut. I just hit the nut button.
Yeah, that's how you have to do it if you're doing a rewatch. And I did a similar thing, like Battle of Blackwater, Battle of the Bastards. I sprinkled a lot of season 1 in there because season 1's very interesting to me. But Game of Thrones, okay, you know how we talk about how some shows are made for being gift, or some shows are being made for like out of context viral Twitter posts where it's like this, this. And it's just some like culture war monologue that you'll forget in a year. Game of Thrones, you know what that was made for? Game of Thrones was made for YouTube music videos where you take scenes from the show and mix it with like an Avenged Sevenfold song or Ecstasy of Gold.
It's a fan panel come to life.
Yeah. Game of Thrones is like, there's this guy I always think about when Vine was a thing. I wish there was a video component to this podcast because I just have to describe this guy, even though he's perfect. It was a guy who wore like, the shitty striped leather jacket that every imbecile wears. And he was like a telegenic enough guy. He had like the one of those like low pompadour haircuts that were popular in like 1998 with white men. And he was just lip syncing the one Imagine Dragons song that everyone knows and just like freaking out. And I love that Vine because that guy's in such pure unalloyed joy and he thinks he looks so fucking cool. And he actually he's a decent looking guy and he probably got to fuck an equally stupid woman, at least one off of that. Anyway,
he got to booby hugs.
Yeah, that's what I think about when I think of like Game of Thrones and the people that just fucking love it. I mean, there are multiple levels of people that love it. I sort of equate it to pro wrestling where there are people who are just in it. They loved it beginning to end. Like maybe they noticed a little fall off in quality, but they're with it for the long haul. They still loved it. They miss it. And then there are like the smarks, like the people who are like, oh, what are D&D up to now? And they still watch the entire fucking thing, like me, like you.
Oh yeah, no, I was strapped in.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So I have a lot of thoughts on Game of Thrones, just the show going from, the first season onto what it became. Because, how we've talked about how there are confines to what TV can be. Deadwood exceeded them. That's what killed it. It was the dog running through the electric fence. The Sopranos stretched them as much as humanly possible.
Yep.
But still existed within the confines. The Wire and Breaking Bad are very much within those confines. Game of Thrones is like, it doesn't feel like a TV show. It feels like it just, you made like 10 Lord of the Rings movies or Marvel movies and cut them up.
No, it like Game of Thrones is like, because it totally makes sense that Game of Thrones came to prominence at the exact same time as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they function as the same thing. The Game of Thrones and Marvel are basically the same cultural phenomenon, absorbed different ways. Yes. Absorbed in the form of a weekly television show that comes out like for a burst every couple of years, or a yearly, like twice biannually pilgrimage to the movie theater. That's the only thing that really separates them. Otherwise, they're absorbed at the same level as like a new, like or myth.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't feel like it exists in the confines of TV in the same way like Breaking Bad does. It definitely exists in confines. It exists in the confines of like popular fantasy. And
this new thing. This like like they were both antecedent to this acceleration towards like the total, like the stripping of content of any sort of weight or differentiation, the turning it into just a pure stream. An online stream with no even like no distinction in ritual or behavior or engagement with it at all. Like these were the two strains that were going to like pull it together to the union of the ice and fire, basically. Of Marvel and Gambo. That's
what I think the first 3 seasons are very good. They're very fun to watch. And I think the concept of Game of Thrones is fun. We're dealing with what, like 1300s Europe.
Yeah. And you know what it's got? It's got the world building, and I'm a sucker for it. I
love world building.
After what I didn't watch Gambo for after the first season, even with all the love, because I was never a fantasy guy. I read some Pierce Anthony books when I was a kid, but I was never a sword guy. I was never one of those guys.
Yeah, me neither.
I was never really a genre guy at all. But it was definitely more sci-fi than that bullshit.
Same.
I was never for Tolkien or any of that. But then, you just kept hearing about how good it was, and it became more and more part of a cultural conversation. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I binged the first season, just was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think they were like, the third season was about to come out, and I binged the second season, and then having to wait for the third season, because I think it was going to be months, I fucking started reading the books. So I read the whole damn books between watching the second season and seeing the third season live.
And the books are like, I want to add a caveat. I have not read the books.
But you are hilariously conversant in Game of Thrones book lore, even though you have never read the books. It is amazing to me.
So I had a really bad stretch of insomnia in 2017 and 2018. And when I would be up at like 5 a.m., I would just watch videos by a guys named like, the Marooned Cloak on YouTube, yes. who were like, all right, so what's the history of Dorne? And I would read like the fan Wikipedias.
What's going on with those fucking guys? Why are they dressed up like that? Why they got them towels on their head?
Why are your pants so big, man?
Yo, you guys all swingers? What's that
the hell's going on? Is that just
what the Sam Hill's going on? These guys talk funny.
Are you all?
Everybody else is like past the crumpets, and this gentleman's over here. He's having a damn bullfight.
Well, what the hell are all your princes bisexual, or is it just the one?
I need to get under the hood of this here predicament.
So that's what happened with me. But it's like, okay, so like I was like you, like I was not really a fantasy guy. I tried reading Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. And I just like, it went right through me. It was like, this is just 8 million pages about a bunch of little guys eating special bread and singing songs.
You have to have a certain tuning. Yeah. You have to be, you got to be of the land, shall we say?
Yeah.
It's not very good. It's not for Semites.
My dad loved it. That's why I read it. My dad was like, you should read these. And I was like, how the fuck did you read these?
That's crazy. Yeah. Because to me, it's like, I'm too Jewish to like that stuff. I'm too Jewish to like Tolkien, and I'm not Jewish.
It's for Anglos. My dad loved it.
Yeah.
My dad also read it incorrect. Like my dad was like, he loved the movies. Like we saw all the movies as a family, and he was like, yeah, the elves are actually the Jews. And it's like, yeah, sure. That's what Tolkien thought. Yeah, you got it, man. It's not the dwarves. We're the elves. We're the sexy, immortal warriors.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the little greedy, oafish creatures who love gold more than
That's
anything.
what like a psycho Anglo-Christian would think of us. Would think of just,
Yeah, because like as capitalism emerged from the ferment of feudalism and it tore up the old feudal ties, someone had to carry out the function of abrogating like social transactions to the market, and it couldn't be anybody in the community. It had to be this other. And so, these gaunt pedophiles are making their fucking larders of treasure, they have to sublimate all of their sense of guilt about it off on these poor people. And then they get to stand at Olympian remove and be like, yes, you dug too greedily and deep. On whose behalf, motherfucker?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why did we need banking if you weren't
Yeah.
pilfering the world, you Anglo freak? But
yeah, it was for Lord Autumnbottom because he wanted a set of like crystal dildos for his fucking his cotier of mistresses.
But so yeah, going back a bit, I loved growing up. Like my foundational fictional series were like I loved Halo, like any kid my age. Fucking loved Halo. I loved Philip K. Dick, and I loved Dune the most. And the Philip K. Dick, not so much, but those other two, like they're all about the world building. Like Halo, none of the characters in Halo are interesting, but the world they created fucking rocks. Same with Warhammer.
That's the thing. World building is cool because like I have read all the Song of Ice and Fire books, tore through them, love them. I've kind of made peace with the fact that I'm not going to see any more, even though I would really like to. I've even read all of the ephemera. Like I've read the fake history of the Seven Kingdoms that he like co-wrote and the Atlas. I mean, I got deep into it, but I never did any other fantasy thing. I didn't read Wheel of Time or any of these other big ones, or even dabble at all.
Yeah,
I was like, nah. I like Game of Thrones. I don't like fantasy as a genre because I respond to that the same way I keyed into Dune. The difference for me is that, and I think you would agree, even though you love Dune. Oh, right, you haven't read the books. Well, I'll tell you.
I have read the books.
Is a much better, much better prose stylist. And that's my problem. Like at a certain point, I love the Dune world
Herbert's
building.
a weak writer.
I would rather just like read a list of glossary items about, and like a wiki of the world than actually read him recounting things happening in it. Whereas Martin he's like at the Stephen King level of like a virtuoso like narrative flow.
He is to book writing what Dick Wolf is to TV producing. He makes it
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like this goes down smooth as baby butter.
Yeah,
and it's like Frank Herbert very much not.
Yeah, reading Dune, I try.
It's like eating gravel.
Yeah, someone got me a beautiful anniversary copy of Dune, like the big hard one.
Oh yeah, I saw it. It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful, and I love it. And I peer through it for parts that I like from when I first read it. But Herbert is like, yeah, if that's like if George R. R. Martin is making you a milkshake, Frank Herbert is making you like hardtack. He's not a good writer.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's like these are week old Captain Crunch you're trying to get through.
But his world is fucking awesome.
Oh, it rules.
And the world, both those worlds, I Dune and Game of Thrones, I think have a lot of common. They're just taking like the most interesting bits of existing history and transposing them either on a fictional past or a speculative future.
It charges it with like all this drama because like our history, I think, is all received to us as dead, and our destinies as written. You know, but you can live in Westeros or you could live on Arrakis, and you can honestly imagine another world that you can charge with meaning because it reflects the world that you live in, and its pain and its potential reflect the world you see around you in its history and in its future that you're either like recounting or projecting.
Yeah, and they have enough elements that you identify. Like, I love what Dune does, where it's like that Protestantism and Catholicism have merged.
The Orange Catholic Bible.
But it's like
Zen Sunnis.
Yeah, it's like it's what it's like. It's like a very vivid dream where there's so much from your life there that it feels real. As Dan Barrett's saying, it isn't real, but it feels real. And
And the underlining gimmick of Dune is really underrated. Just the idea of what if it's super far in the future, but they just don't have computers.
Yeah.
Ideologically, like they just decided no.
We'll have psychics.
And then they had to like turn humans. They had to turn humans into machines in order to accelerate technologically. And then everything comes from that.
Incredible.
Because everything in the show, everything like all those progressions, like the Bene Gesserits, it's all about like turning humans into machinery.
Yeah, that's an incredible world feature. And the other thing I love about Dune is how important resource extraction is. Like, I feel like in other...
The spice must motherfucking flow.
Yeah, I feel like in other fiction, like, resource extraction is pretty much an afterthought. It's like...
It's totally, yeah. Like, I mean, the Game of Thrones doesn't go as deep, but it definitely gets economics.
Exactly. That's the parallel in Game of Thrones. Because, like, in Lord of the Rings, there is no economics.
Yeah, there's no economics.
Everyone is just pro bono.
It's a pagan anarcho-commune. It is, because people have called Tolkien an anarchist. It's like, yeah. It's like, this is just folk society, self-organized.
That's what Chaz would have been like if it kept going.
It would have been. Yeah. If people had only hashtagged it
Given it a chance, we would have gotten Middle Earth. But yeah, everyone in Game of Thrones, the only thing they want is the ring. And that's another thing I didn't like about it, is that it's just like, or they're like Aragorn, and it's like, what motivates Aragorn? Like,
there's no motivation. They don't fuck either. It's like there's no earthiness to this. This isn't like, these people aren't operating from actual human motives,
right?
So they're not relatable.
And even Paul, who they turn into a god and then like a killer of like he has these human qualities. They become less pronounced, and that's kind of the point of his character, that they go out as you go. But even still, you can understand him as a human. But so Game of Thrones does this in the sense that, like, this first season is War of the Roses, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Lancasters and the Yorks standing in.
The Lannisters
and the
Starks. Very clever there, George. We see you.
Yeah. And, like, you know, Westeros is just England. They're not super loyal to it, which I think is good, because if you did that, you would just have the Tudors, which I think has only been watched by accident by guys watching Ray Donovan.
You're using it as an inspiration and a jumping off point, and then you get nutty with it. And that's the challenge of doing synthetic, speculative historical fiction like this.
That's what's cool about the world building. Like, oh, what if Spain was a fucking part of England?
Yes.
Like, that's fucking cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what if Spain was a part of England and it was this, like, insurgent kingdom that was never fully conquered?
Yeah, and it's like, it's sort of like the Iberian, it is like a syncretized, like, Iberian, Muslim native culture thing. It's like, it's sort of like Tudor England was attached to like the caliphate of Iberia,
which is why it's such a shame that the Dorne storyline sucked so fucking bad.
Ooh, yeah. And I gotta say, that one you can't really put on Benioff and Weiss.
Yeah.
The Dorne portions are widely considered the weakest portions of the books as well. It's so much, because the thing is it's very, very little relatively of substance happens, but there are some key things that have to happen.
Yeah.
And so what he ends up having to do is he keeps having to go back to it and like just leaven the bread with some more, filler to keep you from forgetting about it, but it never actually adds up to anything. And it's like, this is just killing me.
Yeah. They took out what could have been a very interesting Dorne storyline. Young Griff and John Connington. I
gotta say, Young Griff would have been better than what they did. And if they could have taken all that screen time they used with Dorne and had like the Young Griff thing emerge from that, and that would have been a way better use of time than whatever the hell they were doing. I will say the real bummer of Dorne, not only is it a cool idea, but Oberyn Martell, his arc is, I think, a series highlight.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
And like the Battle of the Viper in the Mountain is
fucking
maybe
awesome.
the best scene in the show.
Yeah, fucking awesome. And so going back for the first, I'd say 67.333% of the show, what makes it cool And what makes it so good is that, yeah, it's not conventionally a TV show. It doesn't follow the conventions of a TV show, because if it did, Ned would be alive. Oberyn would be alive through the end of the series and maybe die at the end or whatever. But
yeah, they're the heroes. They're lampshaded as heroes.
And I remember when people were hyping it up, they were like, "Oh, this show's so good. They like don't follow any rules. They just, they fucking killed Ned Stark." And that's when I realized this was just a bunch of cut up films. Because yeah, in a TV show you don't kill Ned Stark, but in a film you absolutely kill him at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
establish stakes.
Yeah.
You sacrifice a fan favorite to establish the stakes of the situation and to provide plot, motivation, because
yeah,
his death changes the dynamic.
Yeah, if this was fucking, if Rocky, those series of films were a TV show, yeah, you wouldn't kill Apollo Creed, but you would in a movie.
Yep.
But I think it does show how weak TV is, in that this was essentially like, if Game of Thrones, you do the Men in Black memory wipe, you turn these into like a series of films that people watch. How do you think they're remembered? They're remembered as like these really fun movies that came out from 2009 through 2018. And people would be like, "Oh, those are cool." And they wouldn't talk about it a ton, but they would do pretty well, right? Like,
yeah,
but it wouldn't be like the cultural force the TV show is. But because it was on TV, where a show that's like entertaining in this sense is expected to be kind of shitty in the way like Sons of Anarchy is, or like Quantico or something, it excelled far past people's expectations. And it probably got the highest amount of people ever to subscribe to HBO.
Honestly, I think kind of what happened is I feel like when that game came out, I was very aware of it. I didn't watch it, but I was aware of the Discourse, because this is when I was at my most bug man, when I was looking at like Breaking Bad reviews and stuff.
I also read the Something Awful thread on this.
Yes. And people approached it, like the critics and stuff approached it sort of with a little bit of gingerliness. Like they were coming up to a meteor strike or something, because they were like, okay, we have this new standard of what TV is worth talking about. And this has a lot of the things that we normally associate with that. Big budget, being on HBO, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. Big stars and all that. But this subject matter, does this count? And honestly, I think what made the decision for them was just the fact that people liked it. And as soon as it became popular, a narrative was retroactively built around, well, this new it's defined the genre. It's like, well, yeah, you just found out that actually people just want to watch a show.
Yeah.
And talk about it, and that your standards have sort of outlived their usefulness, because you've gotten like a larger, you've like maximized the amount of people who are paying attention now, to this. Like, all right, you've got our attention, and it's like, here is a thing that's just barely crossing the thresholds for serious drama, but enough of that we're like basically intersecting with like pure, entertainment. Pure exploitation and art, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll take the very minimum of that, the closest intersection possible, the maximum amount of fat. Give me all the fat in that baby, marble that motherfucker up, and then now we have to act like this is a show like these other shows. And all of the discourse around Game of Thrones is this mad bidding war to try to continue injecting relevance and therefore emotional investment into something that at the end of the day is really, as Ian McShane said, just tits and dragons.
Yeah, no, that is exactly the next thing I wanted to get into, because I thought the cottage industry around Game of Thrones was so talk about, capitalist media squeezing blood from a stone. when they started talking about like the sexual politics of the rape scenes in Game of Thrones, it was like, what do you think this is? What do you think this show is? Because this is, would correctly identify this as like a stupid fun movie.
Yeah. Yep, but it's coded in such a way that your brain is rebelling. If you saw this in like a Conan remake, like the one they did with Carl Urban, you would roll your eyes and maybe be like, ugh. You wouldn't engage with it. You wouldn't be traumatized by it. That's only because you feel betrayed.
I would say millions of words have been written professionally about sexual violence in Game of Thrones, which is insane.
My God, the million monkeys could spend time amongst those scribblings and put together Shakespeare. How many fucking words is spewed out?
And then, so this went on during Game of Thrones' like good age, when there was like D&D were in sync with Martin, and then when it got bad, you know, when we got stuff like the Dorne storyline. By the way, I have a theory about the Dorne storyline. I think this was D&D trying to make like a gifable, epic, like feminist meme.
Yes, it was the girl power thing. Very cynical, especially since that was at the point where they were getting shtick for the misogyny.
Yeah, they're like, how about we have some
for the entertainment value, basically, which is inherently misogynist because, oh, what's this? This is a fucking mass film entertainment. It's male gaze all the way down.
Like tons of fucking. Do you know how many like just exceedingly normal brained women I know in like Minnesota and Illinois who fucking love this show? Like literally like, name their kids after shit in this show.
How many women named their fucking kids after fucking Khaleesi?
Yeah. Every woman I know in Minnesota who has like is like a research scientist. This shit like doesn't know who David Brooks is or like read think pieces. They fucking, this show is like the biggest thing to them outside of like their kids and their family. Like they fucking love
because it bridged the divide, because it gave us from both ends of like the cultural divide on like what's the purpose of entertainment. Is it to enlighten you and ennoble you, or is it to have fun? You get to square the circle and get the biggest portion of both.
Yeah. So that was, we could go on and on about the cultural penetration of Game of Thrones, but safe to say, out of any show we've talked about, it had the greatest one. And no one's going to come close for a very long time. Very, very long. Maybe ever, because we live in this age of micro-targeting. But the other thing that, as the show declined, that's when like people got obsessed with inserting modern politics into Game of Thrones.
Yep, it's like as the batch of art in the Game of Thrones got weaker, you know, it had to get stepped on with something else to take that place of like, you know, emotional investment that you can't get from characters because you don't care anymore. Oh, now you're getting your investment from arguing the politics of it, negotiating it, whether it's a good or bad thing, like you're diffusing a bomb, and then using it to explicate your politics in other areas, and like give a metaphorical like structure to your world, and then that takes over for the declining artistic value of the project, because those guys were basically just making it up as they go along in terms of how they were actually approaching the adaptation, such that when they ran out of material, they ran out of any framework for moving forward.
Right. And they ran out of faithfulness to characters. They ran out of, you know, Cersei is a great example of this. Like, Cersei throughout the show is a great character because she's like an ambitious, ruthless woman, but also like kind of fucking stupid. Like a hilarious.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. She's like an evil. It is a fun character because she is a evil mastermind who is also a dumbass.
But then they just made her a mastermind. Like,
yeah, they made her. Oh God, the blowing up. Ooh, just doing the end of Godfather on everybody, and it's like, well, you could have done that at any time.
Yeah. Why like wait?
What the fuck? Like, if you're willing to go that far and you can get away with it, then what has all of this bullshit been about?
Yeah, that's something that I don't even really think would happen in a Marvel movie. That's almost too stupid to put in a Marvel movie.
It really is so stupid.
Yeah,
and then the contortions people had to put themselves into just justify it artistically. And it's like, yeah, because you're operating at the level of these made up themes that you're inventing in the first place. Of course you could put those together. I'm talking about the actual structure of the show.
Yeah, or like Littlefinger. Like Littlefinger, I thought was a really interesting character. Like it was, I think, historically an interesting character, that there are guys like this throughout history, like little Rahm Emanuels who like...
Yeah, Thomas Cromwell guys.
Exactly. Who just like just worm their way through systems. And then at the end of the day, it's like, you got betrayed, bitch. You got owned. Like, what?
Yep. Oh, so what? You underestimated these sisters.
Yeah. And that was
sisters.
And that was all like
for themselves.
It's like all D&D trying to like, yeah, be like, no. We're sorry for the rape scenes. Like, here, like, make this a gift. And it worked with people. It fucking worked with people. People who like,
oh my God,
who are like, you missed the point of Fight Club by idolizing Tyler Durden, are like, yes, I'm exactly like Cersei, the woman who dies under a pile of rocks making out with her brother. Yep. I'm exactly like her.
I'm that much of a girl boss.
Yeah, I'm exactly like Olenna Tyrell, whose entire bloodline got wiped out.
Wiped out.
She got owned.
Yeah, like the green hands before them. Gone from this earth. Great job.
Yeah, I saw that.
But she had so many good owns. She's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Oh, her descents were so masterful.
Did you see that after that, like, fly was in Mike Pence's hair? People were like, oh, it was RPG. And they put the Olenna Tyrell quote in there, and it's like, well, yeah, no, both of them just got owned and wiped out and replaced.
It's like, under no circumstances did her intervention within the, War of the Five Kings or whatever on behalf of House Tyrell was a success.
No.
She annihilated the whole line.
She ended the family forever.
She ended the family forever, and fucking Cersei ended up getting a rock dropped on her fucking head.
Yeah. No, it worked out.
Oh, and of course, Khaleesi.
Yeah, Khaleesi.
She took the hoops out.
Yeah, Khaleesi, she took the hoops out. She girl bossed the fuck up. She vibed on the Mayo dicks. Got dicked down by her nephew and then stabbed to death. Yep. And then her nephew was like, I'm never going to get pussy again. Peace.
Never going to get pussy again.
He went MGTW. He's like, I'm joining ICE and never fucking again. Yeah, that's basically
I'm burning off my balls.
Yeah, I'm becoming a border agent and I'm done fucking. Like, that's, but I guess it just goes to show everyone is only as smart as right up to the point where you get to their algorithmic desires until you push those buttons.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
As soon as it's no longer convenient for other mechanisms within the narrative, then boop.
Yeah.
Negotiable.
Yeah, people who
just like space-time is negotiable, like the distance between things. What do you need?
Yeah, people who love talking about like Tarantino should be in prison for Me Too crimes for filming women's feet. Like, fucking, I'm so sick of like guys who don't get that Scarface is a bad guy. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, why are you normalizing him?
Everyone's like this. Everyone is this way. Everyone's this way because like this is what we have instead of anything else. This is what we have instead of the only things we have are this and sports. We don't have religion
and politics, which are all one thing.
Yeah.
It is seeing our side do well in a cultural contest, seeing our characters in the self-conscious imaginary of their TV and movies win, and then in politics, they're slightly less abstract but still fake avatars of the political figures winning. You're just rooting for laundry, and it's arbitrary and leads to nothing.
Yeah, no, it's all the same thing, and everyone is pretty much as stupid as one another. It's the one thing we share. Yeah.
It's a dumb off. Everyone's just dumb as hell, and just in like a Mexican standoff where no one can admit that they're getting dumber every minute, because then that will be sort of like an admission that you've lost faith in like the greater project, the greater communicative project you think you're part of, or you pretend that you're part of. Like, no, we're like having cultural conversations. We're talking about art and politics. We're creating we're shaping the world around us with our actions. No, you're not. You're not doing that.
No, yeah.
You're watching Littlefinger explain his history of the Starks to two women who are just lesbonically banging each other as practice in a bordello.
Yeah, it's a stupid show. You're watching a stupid show. Other people are watching a stupid show. Because that's the other thing. Conservatives love this show too.
Oh yeah.
Conservatives love this show, and that's not them reading it wrong.
No,
it's
just open. It's just you can import your particular neuroses onto it because everything is so amorphous. because it's just this baggy narrative without any kind of coherence of theme or imagery or anything.
Yeah, Martin has no political perspective beyond like some sort of like 60s lib boomer thing that's like, oh, authoritarians can be bad, but sometimes they're right, and war is bad, but sometimes you have to do war.
Exactly. It just gets you to the same like milquetoast liberalism as every other cultural byproduct of his generation.
Yeah, there's just it's just characters and cool ways to describe events, which is like, yeah, I don't need for fiction to be anything else.
Describe those banquets. People get mad at him for describing the banquets. I love it.
It's awesome.
Tell me about the honeyed chicken. Give me the trenchers full of stew. After I read that, I go eat. The other thing people complain about is that he always describes everybody's sigils. Bitch, I want to know the sigils.
I want to know the sigils.
I want to know about the red apple fossaways and the green apple fossaways. That's cool.
If there was I
want to know about like the fucking the Lion of Crakehall and such.
Yeah, if there was an entire book that's like the histories of the sigils of major houses, I would read it.
There's something like that. I got to tell you, he wrote this. He wrote a couple of these or co-wrote these ephemera books that I think you would read. You don't have to read the books, but
once
I think
the
if you
YouTube
read those,
video
you'd
comes
enjoy
out,
them.
and I get another bad spell of insomnia, I'll know everything.
Yeah, I think you would have fun with them because it's essentially the lore you read, but in a nice package and written in Martin's prose.
Okay,
so it's actually like enjoyable to read in addition to giving you the information you're looking for.
I'm into that. All right. I'm fucking into that. But yeah, no, it's everyone eating out of the same trough, seeing completely different things in it. But that's kind of one of the final discussion points I want to get to for this. The thing I think is so interesting about the end of this show, and there's not a lot we could say about the end of the series that we haven't already said. It's characters acting out of character. It's events that are cobbled together from like untied storylines in the book that
you can see the seams everywhere just weeping.
Exactly. Yeah. There are events that are supposed to be connected, but don't feel like it. There are storylines that just don't go anywhere. There's a lot of leaning on Jon Snow, which is certainly a choice.
Oh boy, yeah, everyone's favorite charisma fountain there.
Just never ending.
Just a character who, even on the page, kind of sits there.
Yeah,
because he is just too stoically a hero. Those characters are never to be experienced from the inside. They're strong and silent for a reason. They shouldn't talk. You shouldn't be inside of them, metaphorically or physically.
Yeah,
and they spend so much time with him that it really does make you just like, oh God, no, they're here again. He's talking. He said, Sam, we need to go beyond the wall. Sam, we're going to go beyond the wall, Sam.
Yeah, Jon Snow doesn't have any character traits besides like brave. Like it's just
yep. He's got all the good stuff, and it's like, does he have his bad stuff? Well, sometimes he questions himself.
Yeah,
it's like this is a Mary Sue, but for a certain idea of a stoic, like pre-modern masculinity.
Yeah. And Jamie Lannister, way more interesting character. Not exactly novel, just like baby's first anti-hero, but like way more interesting.
But just from that perspective alone is way more dynamic.
Yeah.
Everybody's more dynamic than fucking Jon Snow. And of course Tyrion, who a fan favorite, I mean way more so.
Tyrion, man, if I could go back in time and I couldn't change anything major, like prevent 9/11 or Bush stealing the election or something, or Hitler, it would be to take out the line, I drink and I know things.
I drink and I know things.
Fucking one of the most fucking cringe lines. It sucks.
I do two things. I drink. How many guys, how many couch-bound dorks who just like have Wikipedia entries instead of brains.
Yeah.
Heard that and are like, that's like me.
Yeah,
that's me and my IPAs and my deep knowledge of Crimean War trivia.
My friend who plays CSGO with me changes his names to I drink and I know things just to piss me off. Just
that
to get me
very
mad.
Annoying.
Just for me to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. As the show degraded in quality, people did not watch it any less, obviously. It continued.
Oh, you couldn't. What else? There was nothing to replace it with.
There's nothing to replace it with. You've already invested in it. And even as much as you bitch about it, you still like watching it.
you still like to watch it because you get to talk about it. And that's what's really there for. It's there as a little topic for you to talk about every day. That's what it's there for. It's like it's a Kong filled with peanut butter. And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's good. It just matters that it's still the same thing that you can keep talking about. You just find a different thing to talk about it. Now you get to talk about how it's bad, but you still get to talk about it.
That's exactly my point. The final gift Game of Thrones gave the world was that we could all tear apart this piñata. Yeah, it was like, here's
all that cultural energy building up to something that could not be sustained by the actual art because it can't hold up. That it couldn't. It wasn't built for that. That it was beyond its tolerance, and it was folly to ever build it to try to do that in the first place. It outkicked its coverage basically in terms of its the ability to deliver an emotional payoff for what it had built up. So instead, we got ironic mockery, which is just as good.
Yeah.
It feels the same. It keeps you involved just as much.
And you're
close enough for government work.
Yes. And as it stands, the end of Game of Thrones, and everyone shit on the ending. Everyone from Trump guys to fucking woke people to out communists. Everyone had more or less the same reasons why it was bad, even if they varied a little bit. But it was the last gift to America. It was the last event that everyone witnessed and broadly recorded as the same thing, was the decline and ripping apart of Game of Thrones. The last thing.
That was it. That was our Wicker Man.
It was exactly. Because everything that has happened immediately before or immediately since, no one sees the same way. There are two
miss me with anything.
Yeah.
Does not move the needle.
Yeah.
What's on now? The Boys?
Yeah. And I love The Boys, but it's like, no, it's
even something like Watchmen or fucking like any of these shows that even get a little bit of a flicker. It's nothing. It can't even come close. It consumed the whole world. It was a Moab. And now we're in like the cultural backwash of it. And now everything is just it's all like that. It's like after the Flaming Mo recipe got released and then there were 500 million Flaming Mo places everywhere and it didn't mean anything anymore. Like the currency got inflated and then the fucking market crashed.
I don't even mean just in media. I mean, this was the last event we all recorded as happening in the same way.
I mean, my God, like coronavirus is not happening to us the same way that the Game of Thrones did.
No, culturally. It's not. Yeah. Because with coronavirus, there's like a non-insignificant, like tens of millions of people who are like, this isn't happening. People who are literally dying going, I'm not dying from coronavirus. Yep. There are like Trump.
There is no consensus reality around Corona. There is consensus reality around Game of Thrones. It's a show we all watch.
There's no consensus reality around Biden winning. There's no consensus reality around like, the end of the Trump presidency, of anything. Everyone just has their own, like, whatever Hugbox media or Hugbox, timeline or whatever, where you can look at the world and say why what's happening isn't happening. Why, if you're a Republican, they've unleashed Jenna Ellis or fucking Jay Powell. And Trump's actually going to be president for 3 terms. It's not going to fucking happen. If you're a Biden guy, this was actually the greatest victory ever. We're never going to lose again. Is that what's going to happen? But everyone has their own blinkers, and everyone sees these same events, and they are every event is the greatest victory for your side. I know in whatever way you interpret it. But Game of Thrones, it was the last time that, I'd say, who's the Trump guy? Like Corey Lewandowski and fucking CNN bugman, fucking Anderson Cooper.
Don
Lemon, watch the same thing, and we're like, yes.
And have the same response.
This sucks.
Broadly, of like, wow, Arya, I didn't know she had it in her.
Yeah, you go, girl.
Like, just that. Yeah, you go, girl. Like, instead of every event sparking diametrical and opposed and attacking opinions. A consensus response.
Reaction and counter-reaction industry, outrage, counter-outrage cycle, and then monetizing it so you can sell a shirt that's based off a typo that Trump made, or then sell a shirt saying that the typo was cool and it was a signal that he's executing pedophiles.
Yep.
It was the last thing that just was how it was. And I think I don't think Benioff and Weiss are like great writers. I don't think they're like amazing at what they do. I think David Benioff is like, I mean, he's not the most maligned product that a Goldman Sachs CEO put out in the world. You know, his dad was CEO of Goldman Sachs. But he's just, he's Philip Green. He was the guy they gave all the money to, hey, run this. But they did achieve something amazing here in that they created America's last universal community experience. The last one ever. Yep,
the last one. The last moment of consensus reality, because now all art, as like politics is spectacleized, the line has been eradicated. So the degree to which, yes, obviously politics is entertainment is all politics, and that means that all entertainment is political. So part of what you get out of watching something is knowing someone else doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And that means that you cannot have that experience ever again. A new thing that will emerge in this context of being like, Hollywood pedophile propaganda and absorbed as such.
Yes.
And that means we'll never get another thing like Game of Thrones. It's impossible.
Ever. Because anything that comes out, the only way for most media companies to sustain I don't mean media companies making the film, but I mean like the decaying husks of online journalism is to be like, oh, this movie's bad because it's going to cause white male terrorism, like with the Joker, or this movie's good because it makes the fuckboys uncomfortable. Or if you're conservative, like this movie's bad because like the director, maxed out to Joe Biden and he made a pedophilia tweet in 2011 or,
God, I cannot remember the number of fucking times I saw reviews of things that were supposed to be important in the pop culture shitosphere being reviewed with like this almost breathtakingly cynical admission of like putting on critical guardrails.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because of political reasons.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading the reviews for like Ghostbusters and one of the woke take mills where they were just saying, you know what? It's not that funny. The pacings isn't great, but when you consider what they went up against and how this just like, it represents people who didn't used to feel like they were part of Ghostbusters now feel like they're part, and that means something. And it's like, you are making this up as you go along to just cover up for the fucking bare fact that this is shit.
Yeah.
And the way to evaluating this shit in a way that proposes that no, there's some way that this is good and it involves politics is a fucking lie.
If you're a conservative, your interpretation of art is largely the same it's always been, that it's indoctrinating people into Satanism and it's going to make your kids gay or wear dresses and all this shit, or it's sympathetic to terrorists or whatever. And you're completely divorced from reality in your own way. But now if you're a liberal, it's the same thing where it's like any piece of media, it's not going to get you into Satanism, but it's going to, it's going to make you some like weird amalgam of what type of white male that like worships Fight Club and does domestic terrorism, but also like votes for Bernie or some shit. There's the same view of art as fundamentally able to corrupt anyone. And it operates on the same fantasy that the die isn't already cast. That anything that happens, it's because our goose is cooked. It operates on the same sort of cloudy optimism that if we just get the bad art out of there, we're
gotta get that bad art out there to get the good art in, and then we will all be better. And by being better, the world will get better, because our actions are not determined by our material relationships, of course. They're determined by our moment-to-moment decisions on how to behave.
Yeah.
And if we change them, we will change our conditions. This is a form of ideology. This is liberalism.
Yeah. But again, Game of Thrones didn't exist on that continuum. There was no one who was like, yeah, I mean, there were these shitty woke articles about it, but no one was like, you're going to become like an incel mass shooter because of Jaime Lannister.
Well, I'll tell you why. I think this is why this was the last thing. It's because it came out around the same time O'Bungler got in there,
yes.
Right? Okay, so this is the first big moment. This is like O'Bungler and Game of Thrones are part of the same cultural convulsion that comes with the 2008 economic crash, basically. Like they're both forged in that stellar star of social contraction and trauma.
Yeah.
And everyone rearranging their material conditions to deal with it. And, mass evictions and the gigification of the economy, the destruction of all, the destruction of any kind of work-life balance, monetization of all human life. And so what that means is that they both formed a cultural thesis, and Obama was part of that cultural thesis. And it's broadly what the Democratic Party represents now culturally. Marvel, all this stuff is part of this Borg of cultural utterances to the Democratic Party, right? Like we all understand that. All the Avengers are for Trump or for Biden. Everybody gets the culture is broadly Democratic. You can say anything else about that, but that's, our understanding. And the thing like Game of Thrones is part of that umbrella of stuff now. But it took a while for that to form. It took the whole of Obama's 8 years for that cultural trend to set in, and then for Trump to emerge as the antithesis and define this new terrain, so that everything that came later would get filtered through that distinction.
That's a great point.
But Gambo was emergent of that moment, and so because it was cultural and not like as political as Obama, who immediately got politicized, it was able to hold on. But it did end right as that transition to Trump was happening. So it was like the perfect Obama era, like cultural emanation of the new liquefied, globalized, diverse America, right? That is what people talk about when they think about the cathedral or the world that you're getting red pilled from if you're alt-right person.
Right.
And that's part of it. But it had to do it first. And a lot of these people, I think, who hate all culture now and think it's all pedophiles, they loved Game of Thrones. All of them. But if Game of Thrones came back, they couldn't love it again.
They would hate it because, and then people on the other side would instantly, do what they did towards the end. It'd be like all the characters are RPG.
It would be RPG from the jump.
Yeah.
First episode, like this is work.
Well, you know how we always talk at the end about the conditions that would need to exist to recreate one of these classic shows?
Yeah. Oh, man.
This would only happen. This is the most unlikely thing. If Bernie had won with like an 80-seat supermajority.
Yeah. If we had somehow steered around this, if we'd metabolized a new deal, like it obviously it wouldn't be as stable as the other one because of declining rate of profit, but just arresting the fall.
Yeah.
Just a temporary hiccup in total immiseration would have given us a little bit of a good vibe for a minute.
It wouldn't even,
and then we'd have to negotiate from there.
It would have to be beyond Bernie being a two-term president with a supermajority for 8 years. It would have to be the military is we are 100% with Bernie. We control the president. There's a little green book of Bernie ideology. Yeah. Everyone Bernie has to have 95% approval ratings. There has to be gulags for Michael Bloomberg and shit.
It's essentially if when they say turn America into Venezuela, it's in the sense of the same approach, the same strategy of governments, getting to a point where you get a mass party that connects to a military that's under your control.
Yeah.
And then you rule that way. It's yes, but because instead of being, an exploited petrostrait on the periphery, we are the actual reserve currency of the world, I think things would go a little differently.
Yeah. So that's what would need to happen for another show like this, because that would take the annoying political elements out of culture and take a lot of the annoying cultural elements out of politics.
Yes, split that. Go back in those get the genies back in that bottle, please.
Yes.
I know doesn't work that way, but oh man, please let me dream of it.
That is the only way we're going to get another thing like this. The only way. So if you, I know no one went home for Thanksgiving this year, but next time, because Joe is getting that vaccine, baby. Talk to your military uncles and Gaddafi pill them, maybe green pill them.
Yeah. Let's get on that the green book shit.
Yeah,
let's get on.
We need the military to sign on to a broadly social democratic internationalist.
I mean, it's that. I mean, people. I have said this before. The most likely, none of them are very likely, but the most likely, emergence of like a counter hegemonic challenge to this neoliberalism we're in will emerge from some sort of free officers movement, on the Chavez or Nasser like Ba'ath Party model. Like that's it.
No, that's all we have. Well, if you're one of the military officers who has been to our live shows, which there are a few of you,
there are some. Yeah, that is heartening to me.
Get cracking, boys.
Yeah,
you want another fucking Gambo? Get fucking cracking.
The one thing that actually helps out us a little bit is that, God bless them, the one thing that I always like think, hey, maybe in the long run this might help out if we do get in there and start infiltrating, boring the slow boards, is all of the top brass of the military. One thing they have in common, by definition, they all went to college. They all went through the college experience. A lot of them are psychos, but you got more to work with, maybe, than you would with other group of people. So get to working.
Yeah, get to working, guys. We're just not going to have shows anymore. Like, you got to fucking... We're going to have too many shows that, like...
Too many goddamn shows. Be a million... It's like, hey, everyone's just trying to hold a mirror up to a person.
Yeah.
To show them their exact experience, but also telling... A funhouse mirror telling that all their miseries are actually endearing qualities and that they should continue to be to prefer their extant misery to anything that would risk discomfort.
So that is our final review and our final take about Game of Thrones' place in history. If you are a military officer, become Gaddafi right now. Fuck
yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Come on.
Strike the green tent.
Hurry up, pal. I don't know.
10 hut.
I've waited 30 fucking years at this point in my life for something. Can you give me fucking something here?
Yes. An American de Gaulle, at least.
Please. Just a fucking de Gaulle. I'm not asking for much.
I mean, de Gaulle is not a lot to ask for, but just a de Gaulle.
We can't even do a de Gaulle in this country. Like, hurry up. Jesus Christ. Yeah. My whole fucking life, nothing. You give me John Kerry? Come on.
Oh, God. David Petraeus?
Oh, my fucking
Stanley fucking Bud Light Lime McChrystal ass bitch?
Who's that?
Guy got caught on a hot mic like a fucking Frank Drebin taking a piss. Fucking oafs.
We need something here, guys, please. But
we're holding out for a hero.
We're holding out for a hero so we can get some more Gambo.
Yep. Yes.
As always, I'm Felix Biederman.
I'm Matt Christman.
And we'll see you next time when the green tent rises. Be steady, be wary, fight the eternal devil. Let's do this. The tall grass falls at midnight or something. Goodbye.
Valar Morghulis.
Valar Morghulis.
You gotta say Valar Dohaeris, dude. God damn it. Ah, damn.